This is Splitgate 2. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is the return of Splitgate. They stopped development on Splitgate 1 back in the day and decided to instead do an Unreal Engine 5 powered sequel, which is a bit of an interesting choice. And yeah, now we finally get to see this experience in action and talk about just what this is providing here during this, I guess you would say, alpha build of the experience, which is rather interesting. So we've got like a bit of a, I guess you would call this a mixed bag of different game mode setups so that we can test out the game, they can get feedback, blah 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 blah. And yeah, it's Splitgate's return, a game where you are playing basically a shooter, but with portals. Yeah, now you're thinking with portals, which is kind of cool, and definitely something a little bit different. Let's see the warden here. So yeah, that's kind of the big part of the game, is the idea that you can create these portals at any point while fighting. And basically it allows you to, shoot between different areas and kind of battle in a way that a lot of people wouldn't really think of when it comes to a shooter. And it was very much sort of Halo, as to say, but in the form factor of the game with portals. I do think the game has moved a bit more in its own aesthetic with this, version of the game, but it's still very much I think relatively familiar to what we're probably used to when it comes to gameplay. I think I just kind of want a regular carbine. It's kind of hard to do the shoot thing with the vibration. So it's a 4K resolution, like it's UE5, so everything goes temporal. And it's 60 FPS. This also just shoots singles. I want like a, like a assault rifle kind of thing. This is what I was kind of hoping for. Yeah, and if you try to get the start button going there, if you go to start, you can change the FOV, in case you're wondering if you can do that sort of thing. And there is HDR support, which is kind of, it's kind of nice to have. And this game, it's also supposed to have a giant multi-team mayhem mode, so that's going to be a thing where it goes up to 24 players. Regularly, you can kind of see this as lobby here, where we're kind of battling in a arena 4v4 setup. But yeah, they're supposed to have a bunch of different game modes and that, and it's just supposed to be an evolution over what we've kind of had in the past. I almost just need to turn off the vibration if I can. It's kind of annoying for this one. Whatever, I'll just deal with it. But yeah, I think aesthetically, like, it actually looks really nice. It's, for UE5, Unreal Engine 5, we get a lot of mixed results on console. But yeah, it seems pretty well geared for a bit of a hero shooter. I do think it has embraced a bit more of a, I don't want to say cartoonish aesthetic, but it kind of reminds me of sort of when they went to like Halo 5. And they started adding a bit more of a faster, sleeker, futuristic kind of thing. And yeah, that's kind of the gameplay vibe I'm getting here as far as like aesthetics and that. And it seems like there's a fair bit of customization that's going to be coming in too, like as far as armor and that. But kind of just have your setup here. So what is this gun kind of having here? I'm just kind of showing off, I guess, all the different guns. Alright. Cool. And they definitely have like a very colorful, vibrant aesthetic that's going on with this game. Visually, it is actually quite nice looking, as I mentioned. Everything is a carbine. And it's really quite neat. I'm not even really utilizing, and I don't think a lot of other people really are either. But like it is a game based around the idea of portals. That's what made this kind of interesting, was the fact that you could create portals and shoot at people, and it just changed the way you compete with each other, because you're able to set up these visions and lines of sight, which traditionally wouldn't exist in this type of game. and you get to do something a little bit different with it, which I think is quite cool. Because other games don't have this sort of thing. It's a funny too, like honestly the idea probably should have come along a little bit sooner, gameplay-wise. Like I'm kind of surprised another shooter wasn't like, oh, Portal's really successful, and oh, people like Halo, and people like shooters. Why don't we just mix the two together, and yeah. It will be interesting though to see if this one can reach like the heights that the original did. Especially since so much time has passed and, you know, shutting a game down and then bringing it back, the success on that has been a little mixed for these types of games, but I am very much looking forward to seeing the end result here, because I was pretty good at the first one. I did really well at the first one, and it's... Again, I'm easing back into this, of course, obviously, like, it takes a bit, but... I don't think there's anything really wrong with this shooter-wise. Like, it's actually kind of fun and engaging and some different weaponry in that. That's what I want, is this weapon. And then, of course, the portals kind of side of it, which I'm not really, you know, like I said, taking advantage of, which is kind of funny. But I think that's more for, honestly, for me, it's like objectives. Tends to be like my portal thing, where it's be like, okay, I gotta protect this objective. Let's throw a portal here, and then we'll go somewhere else, and then we'll throw up a portal occasionally when we need to look in and shoot people. And like, it was also cool because you could traverse the environment in different ways, and it's sort of funny as well because like it's been so long since this came out that I almost like sort of forgot all about the game itself, like as far as vibes. Like I remember Splitgate, I remember playing it, I remember being pretty proficient and good at it. And seriously, like, I think the footage is all up there. We streamed it a few times for sure. And yeah, I remember how I felt about it, I remember the vibes of it, but I don't really remember the game a whole lot. Just literally based on the fact that so much time has passed, it's kind of like, oh yeah, this was a thing that we were like playing for a time, and then it just totally disappeared into the ether. And surprise, it's suddenly back again, and you're kind of like, oh wow, that's a bit of a twist. But the maps, they all seem to flow pretty well. Don't really have any problems with that. I am kind of surprised that they haven't spent more time building and kind of teasing up to this. Like, obviously, they showed off their trailer a while back, which was like an arena thing, and it's like, ooh, you know, they're going for an arena style, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about that, because I remember the first being a little, I wouldn't call it gritty, but it feels a little grittier than what we got here. But, like, this environmentally and stuff looks fine. It does seem like there are some performance sort of drops here or there, but, you know, it is an alpha. And I would assume it's more of an alpha in the sense that this is like, you know, kind of a network test, a little bit of an advertising kind of thing. Betas, alphas, all that stuff these days are not really what they were back in the day. It is also interesting that they've... I think this is a little bit more trying to distinguish itself from Halo 2, which is fine. I mean, like, still totally has that vibe to me, which is a good or bad thing depending on your perspective of Halo and that. But they've, unlike Halo, they've actually embraced the, I guess you would say, more sleek aesthetic. So yeah, it totally reminds me of Halo 5, where it went for competitive arena slickness, and the future is now of Halo combat, and then, you know, Halo kind of tried to do a little bit of a return thing with Infinite. And yeah, it's genuinely fascinating. Good shot of the rear end there. This even reminds me of that one, I think it's like lockout mode or something from Halo Infinite, which is kind of cool. Oh, look, they're all coming out of the portal now. That's kind of neat. Leveling up. And it's like a stage show. Yeah, they're literally doing an arena competition, which is kind of funny. I don't really want to party up or anything. Can we just turning to the main menu? I was kind of hoping we would just sleekly go right into a new match. There's Twitch drops going on, but, you know, of course I do YouTube, so I don't get any of that cool stuff. Then you can see the loadouts here. We got a few different classes that have different abilities. It's gonna take a while to learn that, but then there's the skin editing. So definitely gonna have a lot of skin options, I would imagine. And then a locker for your faction stuff. But it is weird that everything is like I don't know, it's all like rifles. Okay, manage, rename. Right? Like it's a bit weird that they've just given you like all carbines instead of like fully auto stuff. It's definitely a choice. But it's like, yeah, a more colorful, vibrant kind of vibe. Kind of like the middle one there. An assault rifle, there we go. It's like, why would you want to all just use carbines? The carbines are deadly, but it's like, you know, I don't know why you would want to specifically use that. Kind of pondering if I should set up like a shotgun class too. Yeah, they just kind of throw you in with like carbines, and they don't really. It's a bit weird. Frontier, here we go, a little bit objective focus. So hopefully the portals come into play a bit more. I also really loved, and I don't know how much they're going to embrace the silliness too. There were a couple maps that were really nicely set up for genuinely fun, silly portal action. Like there was one map where you're just kind of like floating platforms. It was kind of like dumb from a competitive standpoint, but at the same time, it was kind of cool. I wish they would add the ghost cam. I like to be able to like kind of ghost around the map for a bit, kind of Evil Dead style, before we're just spawning. It's usually a little fun to like show off action, so if they could add that in, that would be really sweet. Yeah, not bad at all. See, I don't mind this. It's kind of a fine new shooter. I'm just really gonna have to ease into, well, playing with portals again, I guess. It does also seem like the portal play, like they've got like walls clearly designed for portal, but like, I don't know, it also seems like the gameplay isn't as, like, there's not as much portal options. I remember there being like limited walls and stuff before, but it feels like the portals are a lot more like literally meant to be functional for specific situations. Like it just doesn't seem as portal friendly, which is weird. I need more portal walls. How am I supposed to think with portals if you know, they don't give us the option to? It's neat that there's power weapons. It's also a very Halo thing as well to kind of like have the indicators. I think that's a lot of games are moving in that direction where there's like indicators like this weapon is spawning here. Do like things that are a bit more map control oriented, but I guess if you already have pretty good weapons and you're just picking up like slightly better stuff, I guess it doesn't matter as much. See, I thrive on objectives, what can I say? Vibrations be wild. See, everybody just has carbines probably because they don't really look at the like the class customization, which would be hilarious. I don't know, I kind of like this. Pretty easy going. I mean, I'm doing well at it. I just wish portals were like a bigger part of it. I just like, I literally don't even think it's me not like orienting with them. I think there's literally just not enough like surfaces and stuff to take advantage of. Because you could do some like quirky things with it, but maybe that was an issue too that they had with the portals, was like people were, I guess you would say, just overly portal focused, and they wanted to make it feel more like, you know, it was a game that was a shooter first and foremost, Portal second. I'm actually a little bit more bummed out that I don't really see anyone using portals. Like, there's a couple portal usages, but back in the original, that's what I remember being the big focus, was you were just portaling around. But yeah, I would say visuals, nice. Gunplay, pretty good. Environments look decent, especially for a UE5 game, but you can definitely tell that it's like, you know, to a degree at times, the temporal stuff going on. But yeah, relatively clean, a good upgrade. Weird flashbacks to Halo 5, which I don't know if I love or find really bizarre, but you know, it's definitely a direction. I don't mind it going in this way, like it works out for the game pretty well. I guess the big thing will be like I'll have to see the full scope of like maps and you know, stuff when it like launches and that. But as far as like an alpha goes, it's not a bad presentation of this game. I would say my biggest feedback would probably be like I just wish there was a lot more portal surfaces, which this game does not seem really oriented to be able to add in, as to say. Because yeah, this seems really poorly set. Really poorly set. I'm wondering what their like vibe is gonna be. Is it gonna be like cutscenes that are kind of like setting up like a big tournament thing? Kind of curious about all this. It's piqued my interest. Like, it would be nice to have another shooter that's popular and stuff in rotation. Because yeah, I remember there was a time where I was just kind of like, you know, streaming this fairly like often. Yeah, we did quite a few streams of this, and you know, the videos of it and covering it, and it was a whole vibe at the time. I still remember being really shocked that they like were just like, okay, we're just done with this, and they're like, we're working on the second one, and I was like, what? Like, it just kind of seemed out of the blue, and it was always like the weirdest thing to me, because like this one had decent like, you know, action and push behind it. Maybe there was like, I guess, a bit of a slowdown, and then they're like, okay, we gotta relaunch this thing and do it more intense and more leaner and meaner, and yeah. And that's a pretty cool bat. It's a weird. I just remember the first being a little bit more gritty, and that I can't tell if it's like a step up, a step down, or a step sideways. The BFB, the big, you know, in bat. Ooh, it's actually pretty funny. That just actually clicked for me. That actually clicked for me what that bat's supposed to be. That is absolutely hilarious. Bravo on that. Yeah, I like this. This is fine. It's not like, I don't think this is changing the way I play like shooters or anything, but it's proficient. It's just, yeah, I'm not using portals at all, and I don't see that it's like impacting the gameplay that I'm not using them. But that was what made this game so special, was the fact that it was portal focused, right? Like, you were making portals and moving through portals and shooting through portals. Like, I'm sure some people just ran around using it as a shooter, but I definitely think that takes a little bit of the heart out of it. At least the game modes seem to have a decent variety to them, like in terms of not being just your straight up generic game modes. They're utilizing rounds and the ability to switch up your strategies a little bit, which is neat. I like more extended matches where you just kind of keep playing, because these breaks are kind of weird to me. Like, the one thing I don't like in COD occasionally is when domination gets like that midway round kind of thing. Never really a fan of that, but you know, that kind of comes and goes. And then this one, yeah, that definitely seems to be what they're sort of going for. Arena round-based combat, which is exactly what Halo 5 did. Did they just like kind of follow that as like a direction for this one? It's a bit uncanny is what it is. Definitely getting those Halo flashbacks. I guess the other disadvantage this one's gonna have too is you know, obviously Xbox, you know, giving up and going like third party, like Halo's gonna end up on PlayStation, so that's gonna eat up into the market of this one, I think, to a degree. As odd as that might sound, but yeah, that definitely is a competitor edge for this game to deal with. It's probably a negligible amount considering the Halo games are kind of old, but yeah, I'm curious if this is gonna really take off again. We'll obviously be watching this one and doing some streams of it, and then towards launch checking it out. But I would say left with a pretty positive vibe and feeling. Just wish there was more portally action going on, and yeah, this is fine. It's perfectly adequate. A solid shooter, gets the job done, and kind of fun to play, I guess. And yeah, pretty good combat, I would say. It's nice to have this back, and it is really bizarre that you know, it vanished at all. It's really peculiar that was a thing. But Splitgate 2,